So is mental masturbation bad? Is it bad to think so much about the things you want to do? Is that a bad thing, right? Let's dive into that in this video. So basically today's Sunday and I just set the alarm for 4 hours of doing big picture Sunday planning, where basically it's going to be 4 hours of mentally masturbating, right? And that's kind of weird saying it out loud, but but basically it's like, so for those of you who don't know what mental masturbation is, it's basically it's thinking, and many people will call it overthinking and procrastination and all that kind of stuff. But it's like if you org chart, right? If you're org charting and you're like mapping things out ahead of time and trying to step into the big picture before the time. That's what many people would define as mental masturbation. So let's describe this, right? Is it a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to mentally masturbate? I'm going to have a little bit of a contrarian view on this, and I'm going to say no. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a very necessary thing, because another word for that could just be planning, right? Now, is there a point in planning where it becomes unproductive? Absolutely, yes. Now, is taking 4 hours on a Sunday to do some epic big picture planning, is that unproductive? I would say no. Now, if you have work to do on a Monday morning or Monday afternoon, and you know you're supposed to be doing the high signal activities that are going to move the business forward and actually move the needle forward and actually making money, if you do a bunch of planning for 3 hours in that time, is that unproductive? Probably yes. So it depends, right? But what I've seen for many business owners and many entrepreneurs is they are either on one side or the other of the pendulum, right? And I think it's important to define this as a pendulum because it's a little bit of a balance between both. So I'll tell you each side of the pendulum that most founders are on. Either, or entrepreneurs, so either they're on, probably like 49% of them are on the one side, and another 49% of them are on the other side. And then you got about 2% of them that are actually doing the correct balance. And so basically, 49% of them will be on the side of, zero procrastination. I don't mentally masturbate. I don't do any planning. They're not going to take any hours on a Sunday to do any kind of planning. They're not going to even be attached to their big vision. They don't have one, right? It's like, I don't talk about the future. I only execute. Right? And fine, it gets them still making some good money. They can still build a business that does millions per year and all that kind of stuff. Then you get the person on the other side, which is a complete overthinker, moves nowhere, and I would definitely say is probably not 49% on each side. Most likely, because if you look at the two sides, the side that will make the most money between those two sides will be the other side that doesn't think too much. They just do more, right? So I would say majority of the people are on the other side, which is they overthink. And that's why they don't make much money, right? Or much progress, because they basically don't take much action. And it's mostly watching YouTube videos, planning, doing, simulations of things and all these things that don't move anything forward physically, right? There's no action, basically. I'd probably say it's like, let's say like 69% on this side or 79% on this side of overthinking. Then it's like 19% on the zero thinking, full action side. And then there's the 2% that are in the middle where you want that sweet spot. And so like I'm saying, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to take 4 hours on a Sunday and absolutely just obliterate a planning session. Because the thing is, when you do that for 4 hours, now 4 hours might be a bit long, you can even do two. Two will be really, really productive on a Sunday. I'm about to have a cigar. I just had some unimate. It's a yerba mate kind of tea that puts me in a peak state. It's like dopamine. Have some nicotine, really dial in and just let the brain unleash in its thinking, right? Firstly, it's super fun, right? That's why they call it mental masturbation, because like it gives you dopamine, right? It gives you the sense that you've achieved those things, right? Which is really fun. It's like playing a game where you can think the next step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps ahead. And so, yeah, I'm not going to sit here saying that's not mental masturbation. It is, right? And it feels really good. I feel great after having a long planning session. And there's so many benefits to it. The thing is, like, the biggest thing that it does is it forces your mind to think in orders of magnitude. Like, for example, I don't have my investment firm running just yet, right? But due to these planning sessions, I already know my next steps. I know where I'm headed, right? And the thing is, like, I've already mapped out the investment firm thesis, right? And this is a great example, and just like really hear this out, because it can absolutely change your perspective. And I'm going to give you an example right now of something practical on how it works for me to think in a much higher order of magnitude, right? And so basically what that does is it like just completely changes the actions I'll take in that week, right? So typically if I do a session like this, like for the investment firm, let's say if we want to have like, I don't know, just hundreds of companies, right? And we want to essentially build out a model that we can plug the infrastructure into any business, and it will just scale it, right? Like we can instantly identify the bottleneck or constraint, and just whack it out of that phase, get to the next one, and everything's pre-created already and pre-planned. So the thing is, like, eventually, especially with like the budget per company, for me it's like 2.5 million, right? I know if I get 2.5 million in cash, we can pretty much start any typical service-based startup, right? And scale that to X amount of millions per year within the first 12 months, right? Most likely you can do that with 2.5 million bucks. And yeah, you just put that cash into operational savings and you assemble the team and blah, blah, blah. So the thing is, right, like when I then step into the business the next day, I'm still thinking in that frame. And that is orders of magnitude thinking, because then all the thinking is, okay, well, if I had 2.5 million bucks to put into each company, and we pretty much instantly start spending $100,000 a month on operational expenses, right, fixed costs or whatever, then like we're spending X amount on marketing, we're getting X amount of leads, we're attending X amount of calls, we're building the team, we're making these hires, we're recruiting this amount of people so we can, kiss enough frogs to find the right people. And everything is on a standard of velocity already, right? And so that is an order of magnitude thinking. Like, it takes your mindset to a new level where you stop thinking in increments, you stop thinking in like little steps, right? Like, oh, what am I going to do with my business this week? It also takes the fear out because you're thinking 10 times, 100 times bigger, right? And then it's like, well, at least for me, it's like, if I'm going to do this for hundreds of companies, then what the hell's my excuse for not doing it for one? And at that point, I won't even have one that I can focus on. I'll have so many, right? So it's like, well, I really have no excuse just because I only have one I need to focus on now. So it's like, why can't I possibly just make this work? And so, yeah. And in the thesis, it's like, we're growing each company to 100 million a year. So it's like, well, what's stopping me from hitting 30 million a year then? Like, the thesis wants to do it 3 times higher, and that's like the actual plan, right? And then like growing steadily from there at a normal growth rate, maybe like, 3 to 5% per quarter. By just doing incremental changes after 100 million a year, for example, per company, right? So what I'm getting at, guys, if you've gotten this far in the video, is like that is what you gain from doing a sort of mental masturbation session, all right, of planning. You're thinking far ahead into the future, and you're trying to pre-solve problems, which again, for most can sound unproductive. And it can be unproductive if you don't do it in the right boundary, right? You have to create boundaries for this. But if you are not doing that, then I do believe that you are at a disadvantage competing with someone who is doing that and also executing at the right level. And so, yeah, like there's a reason why in the investment world, they require like business plans, right? What do we think a business plan is? It's a plan, right? It's something you have to create ahead of time, because it's not only describing where we think the business is going to go. It's also the fact that a business that doesn't have a plan versus one that does, the business that has the plan has a higher likelihood of hitting success and doing better than the business that doesn't have a plan. It's almost like a person that doesn't have a goal versus a person who does have a goal. Just simply by having a goal, you will beat the people who don't have goals. Typically, right? Your odds are higher. And so it's like when you sit down and do this for a few hours, that is you getting full clarity on what it is you want to achieve. And so I wouldn't necessarily say, and look, I would say that is a form of mental masturbation, but I would say that also it is not bad. That's a good form of mental masturbation. And the reason why I'm making this video is, I mean, if you speak to almost any founder or entrepreneur who knows what mental masturbation or overthinking or whatever means, they'll describe it as exactly that. I mean, they'll describe mental masturbation as overthinking and procrastination. And the point of this video is to actually argue with that. And I'm saying I don't necessarily consider that to be overthinking or procrastination. You need to spend at least 5% of your time mentally masturbating. I would say that. Because, and also it gives you dopamine, right? And that actually excites you. It creates passion. Like, dead serious. When you can see the future versus not seeing the future, you are more passionate. When you know what's to come. Like, if you know what's possible. The only way you can know that is through doing this type of exercise. So again, I don't consider that to be mental masturbation. Sorry, I don't consider that to be procrastination or overthinking. But that is mentally masturbating. And you should mentally masturbate for at least 5% of the time. I think that is a good sweet spot. I don't know if that's exactly 5% of the time, but it will be the amount of hours in a week, which will be 7 times 24 hours. So it will be, I think, roughly 175 minus 7. It will be 168 hours. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That was just in my head. So let's say we have 168 hours in a week, and then you spend 4 hours or even 2 hours doing that. Then it will be, 1 hour out of 168 divided by 2, which would be 84? Is that correct? 1 in 84, so that's like 1.19%. So 1.19% of the time is a good amount of time to be spending on mentally masturbating, and that is a productive amount of time allocation towards that. And if you don't spend 1% of your time versus you do, you will probably succeed faster, and overall in your life you will hit bigger accomplishments if you do spend 1% of your time mentally masturbating versus not. And that word, mentally masturbating, is such a weird word. I know. I can't believe I've said it so many times in this video. But hopefully it was worth saying that uncomfortable word to get this point across, which is like it's a little bit of unconventional thinking, because most people would associate this with something negative. And if it's within that allocation, it is actually something very positive and not negative. It's very productive to spend 1% of your time doing it. Now, if you spend 5% of your time doing it, it is actually overthinking. You can go up to 2%, but for sure 1%. If it's less than like 0.5% of your time, you're underthinking. You're actually not planning enough, in my opinion. And the person who is spending 1% to 2% of the time doing it will actually be able to outpace the person doing less than that. That's my sole belief. So you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment below. And if you need one-on-one help and coaching, feel free to hit the link in the description and you can apply there. And yeah, I'll see you guys in another video. Have a great night. And I'm about to hit my 4 hours. It's like 8 p.m. now, so I'll go until midnight. And yeah, peace out.